topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the host and their guests, and not those of W4CS Radio, its employees, or affiliates. W4CS makes no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for listening to the Cancer Support Network on W4CS.com.
Hi, welcome everyone. It's Arti with Light Up Your Life, and it's Friday, April the 2nd, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for tuning in, and if you're listening to the recording, thank you. So today it's just me flying solo. I have decided the first Friday of the month that I'd like to just take some time just to be with you all solo, and just to have that time together. And so today's segment is called Bite-Sized Pieces of Life. And we'll see what happens in terms of maybe just keeping on doing some extensions. And I just want to share with you all that we just are reminded that life needs to be segmented into small parts because it becomes so complicated and so hard, right? Like when you have too many pieces that you're juggling and trying to balance. And then, of course, that debilitates our health. It affects our joy and happiness. And it's not the way that whoever you believe in, the heavens above, God, or even if you don't believe in anything, that's not the reason we were created. And I want to share with you all that I love being part of this movement in this greater vision of sharing information, because I think we're in a really great time for what's called an awakening, an internal awakening. I have found myself realizing that it's been an internal cleanse, and mine, started back in 2018. And I think that we all have had one in 2020 where we really had to dig deep and figure out what was happening in our world, in our homes, in our nation, in our community, and also for the juggling act. But then I also want to commend us, right? Like we never give ourselves any credit. I want to commend us for all of the different hats that people have pulled through. A few weeks ago, I was talking about teachers also being first line responders, but actually each individual in their home has been a first responder when, as a parent, you've been juggling all of the responsibilities, if you are a parent or a caregiver, all the responsibilities of being in the home and teaching and managing your own profession, and then also all the tasks that are entailed in running a home. And then so many of you have actually had to transition this during this time, whether it's been because you have lost a job or lost your home or lost your health, and you're finding a new beginning and you're trying to figure it out. And so that's also where I want you to commend yourself and give yourself credit. The issue that I find that we're having is that we don't celebrate our small successes, right? We're always looking for the grandiose, big things. I'll give you an example personally. So recently I just have decided always to aim and shoot for the stars, right? Like things that are crazy. For instance, I started the business and nonprofit at the same time, which is such an insane idea. Everybody thought I was crazy, but I went for it. And I'm so glad I did. But what I'm trying to get at is it's a grandiose idea. And I was trying to do everything at one time, bits and pieces. And even today, I can tell you, I overfill the plate, and then I don't celebrate the small victories. And small is actually big. And that's why I want to call this segment bite-sized pieces of life, because the small little celebrations and the small little nuggets add up to this wonderful, wonderful plate, right? And we don't ever get to celebrate. And sometimes it's too late. It's too late where we look back and we reflect and we're like, oh, I led a really good life. Well, how about we find a way to say, I am leading a good life, or I am doing the best that I can. And I feel like with that vision, we are in this celebration of life, the way that we were meant to live each and every day. And again, the segment's called Bite-Sized Pieces of Life because who doesn't love candy, of course, right? So I always think of the fact that we love these small little, small little nuggets, because when you eat a big portion of a candy bar, as yummy as it tastes, it does make you feel sick afterwards, versus a small Snickers, whatever it may be, a small Reese's cup, or something that you just have a small portion of, and how you can really start to learn how to savor it. And that's another concept that we're really going to get into today, is bite-sized pieces of understanding, savoring, and gratitude, and what research has shown, and how those two components can be extremely beneficial for raising our happiness quotient, our HQ, as has been called. Some people call it HQ, and really our EQ, which is our emotional quotient, or our EI, emotional intelligence, which in reality in 2021, we have finally realized that you almost need to have a higher EQ than you need to have an IQ, because you actually can get very far with having you do get very far with having an IQ, but without the EQ, the emotional intelligence, the emotion quotient, you can't thrive the way that you were meant to, which is the fact that you may be successful monetarily or with wealth or in your job or your career, but you're actually not fulfilled in the tank of happiness, joy, and love. And at the end of the day, that is what we're here for. Our purposeful, happy living is what we're here for. And how do we strive for that each and every day versus it being like this end journey? And so I celebrate today that I finally, the website for the Holistic Life Care, the nonprofit, is finally up and running. Things take time. When I did the business one, it was really quick and it just went up. And this one took some time. And I realize now, when I tell you today, when it finally went live last night, that when I reflect on it, it took a lot of time, because this one was all my pouring in of my heart, because it's my family's legacy project, this the Holistic Life Care. So when the website was being designed, and I had assistance with Techno Escort, who is actually located in India, and the designer who took time with me and we went through, really understood and was very patient with me, because I think he also understood how important it was, this legacy project of mine. And I've really been dragging my feet for like 3 months. And so I just want to remind you, everything is about timing. And that's a big nugget of life that I have realized. I have been procrastinating and putting it on the side, back, whatever burner. I would tell the board at the board meetings, I was like, it's on my list. It's on my list for the last few months. And I can tell you officially, like April the 1st or April the 2nd was when the day came that it was meant to go live. And I realized that I feel settled in that. So that's my first bite-sized nugget for you. Understanding each and everything has its own time. And I've become so humble to this that I realize that in another example, like of humbleness with time, would be, you are meant to be in the exact same, you're meant to be in the place that you were meant to be at that time, and in that space, and in that place, and in that moment. And what that is the actual existence of what the movement towards mindfulness is, and presence. And presence is everything. We live such distracted lives, I am definitely a distracted person at times too, right? A majority of me can get so distracted. I think technology has caused a lot of distraction, but it has also brought us a lot of connectivity. But everything has a yin and yang, and everything has a pro and con, and everything has a plus and a minus. We were designed that way, and everything in our universe through energy is designed that way: positive, negative, and neutral. And so the idea that I really want us to understand is that timing is everything. And when we become humble to time, it is truly the biggest gift we can give ourselves, because then we really are living that quality life that we were meant to live. So I would like you to take time today, if you are watching, or even if you're driving later on today. You'll hear me talk a lot about journaling, because journaling is very powerful. I have found it extremely powerful, not only in grief journaling, but there are a lot of people who do daily journaling, they do brain dumps or different ideas. But I actually, for a lot of my clients, have always recommended journaling. Even in the health coaching module, you keeping a food diary and the times that you eat certain things and when you're having cravings really allows us to look at patterns. So journaling is extremely important. It also allows a release, because you literally are taking everything that's up in your mental space and you're putting it down, and it gets a place to have a release, and it feels like a burden has been lifted off. And the great beauty behind journaling is there is no right or wrong way to do this. Some people actually use images. It's called mind mapping. You can look it up. Mind mapping allows you to really draw images, and students use this a lot, actually. When I used to teach, we used mind maps a lot within the classroom with different images and different writing. So I highly recommend that. And what you can start off by doing is if you have like a notebook lying around and it's calling to you, then use that. But even just getting something that means a lot to you and having a special pen or a special pencil or whatever it is, you literally are invoking energy by the means that you use. And take some time. It will call to you if you have a space that you really love, that you really find that you can do it. Some people choose to journal in their bed, and some people choose to journal, at their desk. I actually do it a lot at night, and so I am still working, and doing it at night is very helpful to me. And I actually have different ones. I have ones that I have one specifically designed. Somebody had given one when my mom had passed away, so I write to my mom and dad in that one. Then I have one for life's quotes, and then I have another one even for my daughters. We've already started journaling back and forth to each other. And those of you with young kids, or even teenage children, or even college age children and adult children, and those of you who even know kids in your community, keeping a composition notebook that you journal back and forth with is so awesome. It is a great connectivity piece. I know recently I was talking to somebody when we were younger and my grandparents lived in India. We would receive that. I think it might have been my husband, actually. We used to get that avion mail. It was blue paper and it had stripes on the outside, and then it was sealed. And I would remember my grandparents would send those letters to our family. And I also remember my mom reading the one after my dad had died, and what my grandfather had said to her to kind of provide her some courage and some strength. And I just want to remind you, the power of writing and the power of journaling is so high. And many of you remember during this pandemic, we had seen the Hallmark commercials with them doing the card campaign, and how a card had touched so many lives, and sending a card in the mail was so powerful. And so, that's another great way to raise greatness, is just sending something in the mail, like a letter or a card. I often tell my husband, I tease him, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's junk mail or it's a bill. But then when you get a package or you get a mail that you're really looking forward to, and not the planned package, but like when you get something like a care package, but more than the care package, it's that letter or that card that's so meaningful. So bite-sized nugget of life is journaling is a huge component that you can include. It doesn't have to be anything complicated. It can just be a line or two, and whenever you're feeling it. But when you are, you're going to start to really feel it. And then you'll look back and you can actually look at your story. For those of you who use it as a grief module, you'll see some progression and in how your grief journey is going. I saw that for myself, where I have seen some places where I have made some improvements and some places where I kind of go through the different stages of grief and have been working through that. And so, again, the power of the written word is so high. And again, it's a forum where there's no judgment. It's just you and your word and that release. And so I actually am attending a grief journaling workshop with Dr. Robert E. Niemeyer, who runs the Portland Institute of Grief and Loss. And so that'll be in a few weeks. And I look forward to sharing some nuggets with you from that and the power of continued unfolding of journaling, especially as we go through different phases of life. And when I use the word grief, I want to remind you it's not just about the loss of somebody, it's also the loss of a pet, it's also the loss of a job, it's the transition. Many of you, when you face empty nest or have faced empty nest, when you even have a child who is getting married, or you are going through a transition, even our health, when our health is changing and we have grief around that, those are all part of the cycle of healing and living. And so I want to remind you that you can use this forum for anything, and even the happy moments, to celebrate the happy moments. Another nugget that I have to share with you when we go back to thinking of presence is not to be so hard on ourselves when we are in this great time to learn about meditation, yoga, and mindfulness. So I actually enrolled in a yoga warrior contest sponsored by Yoga Journal actually a couple weeks ago. And I basically wrote a description. And to be honest with you, it wasn't about winning. It was about me putting myself out there for vulnerability. So I actually posted on my Facebook page. I posted on my LinkedIn page, and I basically put myself out there, which was a huge step. I was conquering a fear. I mean, even doing this podcast is putting myself out there. Even putting my website is putting myself out there. So I'm totally working on that open vulnerability, which, to be honest with you, in my counseling program as a counselor and a therapist, we do have to have in order for us to best serve our clients, we do have to make sure that we're not really disclosing too much about ourselves and really getting to that point, because we want to make sure that we put our client first. But in this modality that I have now embraced of living fully and authentically in a different role as a coach, designing my own model and taking everything I have learned through all of my different settings, I do find that holding myself vulnerable will also allow my community and also allow our community to continue to feel like they can do the same. So I enrolled in this yoga wear contest, putting myself out there. Again, the yogi that I am is totally like, I have some flexibility, but not all of it. But I have found that being a yogi is what it is getting that mind, breath, and body connection. And so I wanted the message, however it was received, to be not so focused on the alignment of the body and the posture and, that I do yoga, because yoga was designed in the scriptures, in those Indian scriptures, it was designed for everyone. And right now, I actually am reading passages out of the Bhagavad Gita, which is the Hindu scriptures, and it does talk a lot about the different forms of yoga, the karmic yoga, the dhyana yoga, and all of the focuses. And so that's the other portion. We have to remember that yoga is an embodiment of life. And what I want you all to understand with this nugget is that everybody can be a yogini in this master full time. Last night, I actually attended it was basically saying that meditation is the medicine, and it was actually sponsored by the Reiki Healing Foundation in Delhi, India, and they had a special guest, and he was so phenomenal that he basically shared the fact that anyone can be a yogini, a yoga mastermind. Anyone can meditate, and anyone and everyone is meant to live the best life. And he kept it so simple. And that's what I just thought it was the most perfect timing to think about simplicity. And so when I enrolled in that contest, which I actually got further than I thought I would, but what the whole purpose was to actually put the message out there, and even today to use this forum to remind you how yoga is a simple, basic practice that is meant for you and for you to embody it. It doesn't mean you have to be enrolled in a class. It doesn't mean you have to be in a studio. You can literally do it yourself. And now when we talk about meditation as medicine, is what the name of his presentation was yesterday. It was so humbling to know that what it is just literally finding time and space to close your eyes. And it was kind of funny because he talked about closing your eyes for multiple hours a day, which who can do that when you're working? But he was just teasing because you're supposed to take the message that you don't just have to meditate in these forums of like, I have to meditate in the morning. I have to close my eyes and just have me time then. It's those times in the day where you can literally just close your eyes for a few, and you don't even have to analyze your breath. You just breathe. And literally in that moment, your whole system is just starting to shift, where your heart is at rest and at peace. Your mind is at rest and at peace. And you are totally almost like in a positive way, just like flatlined. And so I have been running a few wellness workshops, and we just talk about small little ways that you can include in your workday. And actually, after yesterday, I'm not so focused on like 1, 2, 3, inhale, 1, 2, 3, exhale, like the breathing technique that I often will do. And then I'll have everyone follow a few breaths, and then I'll have them lead their own. I'm so not even focused on that, more than just holding space to really encourage the breathing. So of course, those of you who are driving can't do this practice right now, but I do want you to listen in on what we're just going to do. So I want you, if you are watching, to go ahead and take a minute. And I'm actually going to close my eyes. And this is the thing, when I do these sessions, like when we run meetings or facilitation meetings, I always take myself off of video. But of course, in this setting, I'm not doing that. So again, I hold myself vulnerable for you to see where I am, because I'm very private with my meditation and my yoga. But so I just want to remind you that this is also a humbling experience for me, and for you to understand, like, it is so just taking that second minute. Okay. All right. Go ahead. And if you are, and again, if you're driving, you can still do this. You just won't be closing your eyes, but you will literally feel a little different with the shift. And again, bite-sized nuggets of how to do a little bit of calm and peace in your day, to live more authentically, freely, and lovingly, actually. Okay. Go ahead and find some grounding in your seat. And I really encourage you to close your eyes if you're in a safe, comfortable space, and just close your eyes And go ahead and breathe naturally and freely. And just be in this space and feel your breath, hear your breath, sense your breath with all of your 5 senses. If you get distracted in any moments when we close our eyes, when you do this on your own, or even right now when I'm talking, you can just say something to yourself. Come back to this moment, snap out of it, whatever you need, develop a phrase or something that you can say. Notice if your breath is shifting a little bit and getting where your inhales and exhales are a little bit longer. Maybe you notice if your belly cavity, your abdomen cavity is filling. And when you're ready, if you have your eyes closed, you can slowly bring them to open. You can even just stretch out your body a little bit and come back to our present space. I didn't take much time, but that is just a simple, humble little activity you can do. Yesterday in our workshop, he actually played some flute music. It was so beautiful and relaxing. You do not have to have music because the goal is to go inward without having distractions. And even at times, music can be a distraction as much as we love it. So if you need some guided practice with it, you can start, but just try to find a way to simplify it and just close your eyes. It's like getting a chance to take a daytime nap. I often tease in my workshops. I'm like, why is it that we in the United States are like the last country that doesn't have siestas or doesn't have a break in their schedule to go like take a quick power nap? Or oftentimes in other countries, they go home and have, lunch with their families. And so we have to build those moments in our time while we're on the movement. A lot of corporations are definitely building some wellness time into their day where they allow for that space. And if anything, I think COVID has taught us how, in many organizations, to work smarter, not harder. And so that also allows us to have that balance, not of work life, but of life work. And that is our next nugget. I had a great professor I had wonderful professors, but in my graduate clinical counseling program, when we were taking our career counseling class, he balanced us to remind us that it's not the focus of work life. We need to shift and use the word life work balance. And somehow, again, in this country, we have lost sight, and across the world, we have lost sight of what that looks like. We found ourselves almost doing an 80-20 model where we were working or are working at times and of course there's been a need in this period, but even before this 80-20 model of work and life. And somehow we need to do a shift. And that shift comes through how we process and how we view things. And so what we can slowly do is including these little checkpoints. If you're literally getting tired or you need a break, even with screen fatigue, just close your eyes for a second and then gently flutter them open. You will even notice a little bit of a dynamic change with that. I know some of us have purchased Blu-ray glasses. I have them too, but sometimes that's not even doing the thing, right? It's literally taking our eyes off of the screen and closing them and then bringing us back to our space. And remember, anything can become negative, but it can also become positively charged when we take a moment, provide some healing positive energy, and then reflecting back. So again, that is a great little idea for you also, is to remember the focus that can happen there of life work balance. So some of you may wonder, well, how do I do that when I'm just trying to make it? You just take moments in your day where you do put the screen down. If you're someone who's creative, you can doodle on your paper for a few minutes, like we sometimes don't allow kids to do, but now we realize sometimes they just need to draw on a side piece of paper. You can literally look up a funny video for a few minutes that provides you entertainment. You can take a walk outside real quickly. Even if you can't take the walk, you can just open the window, if a close by window, even if you don't have one in your office space, you can just take a quick opening the door outside. Some people even have told me they've taken a break by going to their car and opening up the windows and leaning back in their chair and listening to their jam and taking those minutes. And that in itself provides a shift slowly with the life work balance, because you're still working, but you're finding ways to live within your work. I've been telling my kids recently, we get so fixated. And of course, I love the weekends too. And we just get so fixated. I say it all the time, right? Happy Friday, or it's the weekend. But then we've just done what's called living Monday through Thursday and dragging our feet, getting to Friday through Sunday, and then going through a slump and being miserable, right? Because it's Monday and it's a work week. But that's not the way we were designed to work. We were designed to work with joy and happiness. And I know many of us find that you're not in a position where you can find joy and happiness in a job that you really don't love. But if you go to this moment of thinking, this is what I was meant to do in this time, space, and place, and whatever I'm led to, and whatever my calling is, and whatever my next purpose for my job and my work is calling, it'll all happen in its due time, space. And that's the thing. I'm sure you all know that there are folks that you've seen that are doing these jobs that many people would say, I don't even know how they do it. For instance, when the Walmart greeter does have a smile on their face, and they continue to have a smile when they let people in, or are happy to provide the sanitizer, or ask them if they want their cart cleaned again, even though it's been cleaned, or whatever it is. They have found that that is something that they're going to do to make a meaningful moment, a meaningful day, and to know that that is their purpose. And that's just an example, right? What about the person that you've met that's so friendly doing their job as a parking attendant, and that really, for you, you may think it's such a mundane job to collect money, put it through the credit card machine, or like open up the gate. But what happens in that moment for that person where they reflected this is their life's work for now, or maybe forever, and they find passion in that, or they realize that's what they're meant to do. And I think that's the difference between generationally, where we have lost, where we think everything has to be led up to something, versus our forefathers and our ancestors and our baby boomers and everyone who served in the military, or even not in the military, all of these periods in history that reflect whatever they were meant to do, however they were meant to do it, they were meant to do with greatness. And so life and work, that life work balance. Now, many of us think that it's a chore to actually cook, right? It's a chore to cook. But there were women, and I use the word women and men as well, of course, but when a lot of women who were serving through cooking with their families, when it even came to the hunters and gatherers times in the colonial era, or even before that in the history of where we've been, or women who were serving through cooking, they found the passion of serving and working, because it is work, right, in a different way. your pay through love, right? When your family loves your cooking, or the joy that you bring when you sprinkle that love into the dishes and the food that you serve your family or your friends or your community. And that is also life's work. But somehow generationally, we have forgotten what a gift it is to feed and to nourish our bodies well. And so we turned it into a chore. And yes, the absence of time is a big issue, but time is the one constant that hasn't changed. Actually, time has always been an issue. We may not have recognized it before, right? Like in the past, people would travel by horse to get to one place to another. They would have to deliver telegrams. However, they probably looked at time as a completely different construct, whereas we are looking at it as a construct we never have enough time. However, it's also been said that we make time for the things that are important to us. And so when you think about if it's important for you to nourish your body, your family, and your own soul, then you will realize that cooking doesn't have to be a chore because it's part of that life's work. And I have found myself, not that I'm the greatest cook, but recently I have found myself understanding the joy behind being in the kitchen, because when you do get mindful, even when it's cutting some vegetables and you have that silence and you have that moment to be, or even if you are having a conversation while you're cooking, there is something to that art form that makes it life's work and makes it so joyous, which our ancestors and which many of our grandmothers and our mothers and even our grandfathers and anyone who had served through food realizes what a gift it is to be able to do that and not to consider it a chore, to consider it life's work. So I encourage you to look at cooking as a service of life's work for you, your family, and your community. And to know what a privilege it is to be able to do so, because many people do not get the opportunity to even do that. And for us to be able to say that we can is a big deal. So starting off small, that's just a small nugget, right? Like, how do we change our lens of looking at things as being a drag, which oftentimes they can be, don't get me wrong, but then looking at them through a different lens. What modern conveniences that we do have, sometimes when we don't feel like we want to cook, we do have a modern convenience of having takeout or having somebody in our community saying, hey, I'll drop that off for you. So we are so fortunate and blessed, and that is the other thing. We don't ever want to take our blessings for granted. And that is the next concept of bite-sized nugget of what's called gratitude. I'm sure you've been hearing about gratitude a lot in our literature and in everything that you see. All of the great podcasters and all of the wonderful speakers have been finding it. Scientists, neurobiologists, neuroscientists, psychologists, psychiatrists, you name it. Gratitude is no longer just left for Thanksgiving. It's actually asked for us to look at all year long. And here's the thing. Gratitude builds health and wellness, and it has been found repeatedly, because what ends up happening is, again, you all know I'm all about the energy and the love of energy. So I'm telling you right now, when you literally thank yourself for being able to get up in the morning, and that might even just be to open your eyes, because some days, right, it's hard to roll out of bed, but can you open your eyes? Can you give gratitude for the gift of being able to open your eyes? That is a gift in itself. And so that humbleness, that is a huge gift to be able to do. I was reminded recently by a guru to remember to be thankful that you are able to get up in the morning, because some people don't have that gift, right? The gift of life, the gift of the breath. My other one is that gratitude of being able to breathe. As you know, with COVID, so many people have, when they have faced it, have lost that ability to breathe freely. And that is something we never want to take for granted. When our lungs are not capable of taking those free breaths, or when we have a lung collapse, or when we go through something of a health crisis, or those of you who choose to smoke, or those of you who are former smokers and how have found that your lungs they do function differently, but you don't take it for granted anymore because you are trying to find a way to fill and breathe a little bit better and easier. I want to remind us that the breath and gratitude for the breath is a great way to start off in the morning by just thanking for the ability to A, open our eyes, B, for gratitude for being able to just be able to breathe, and then C, gratitude if you're actually physically able to get out of bed. Okay, starting off the morning with those simple and thanking yourself, and if you have a higher being that you do this to, whatever it be, but definitely in the equation, giving gratitude. And the days that you forget it, it's okay. You get back on that bike again, you try again, right? Same thing. I think sometimes we feel like all these folks who do these morning rituals and everything have it down pat. But the truth is, everybody has a cheat day, everybody has a cheat moment, and everybody makes mistakes, and everybody goes through the pendulum, right? And you just got to find your groove. But doing those 3 basic steps, those 3 little nuggets, thanking and showing gratitude for opening our eyes, for being able to take a breath and breathe, and for literally being able to roll out of bed. That gratitude in itself, so powerful, and so simple. Doesn't cost a dime. It's not taking anything. And you'll get to a place where you're so grounded that you don't even have to say it, because your body, your mind, and your spirit, that you'll get connection of mind, body, breath. It's going to feel it. And then you won't even have to really say, which is exactly what will start happening when you get to this place of being able to allow yourself and to free yourself, right? You no longer have to be encapsulated with whatever it is that's holding us back and holding us down. And there's so much. But with small little steps, the shift, because everything now, I always tell you all, the brain as the number one organ in our body, the number one thing that we're finally realizing, gosh, we as humans have this beautiful creation, and how we're not going to take it for granted anymore, and how we're going to learn to help those neurons to zap, those nerve cells to zap in a positive lens. Well, gratitude is one way. Gratitude, and studies have shown that we can help with trauma healing, we can help with grief healing, we can help with so many components of just that simple practice. So the recipe for gratitude, real simple in the morning. Thanking for opening of the eyes, the body, right? Being able to get up and being able to breathe. My gosh, so simple and humbling, and soon you'll feel it so much you won't even have to do anything about it. Number 2, I was talking about savoring. Savoring is such a powerful tool. I actually have taken a lot of classes previously on the pursuit. Like, I had a college class called The Pursuit of Happiness, and then about last year, I believe, through Corsia at the Yale University, Dr. Santos is teaching a class on the psychology of well-being. It was all online, and it was just about these dimensions of wellness, and gratitude was up there, and the next one, savoring. There's many components of it. Savoring. How does it feel if you're going to have that piece of chocolate? How does it feel to savor that piece of chocolate, like letting it melt in your mouth and really enjoying it, versus like vortex and inhaling it? How does it feel to take that? That's exactly what savoring is. You made the decision to have that piece. I don't know why I'm using chocolate today. I think it's around Easter time and chocolate's all around us and jelly beans, right? You just take that minute to take that bite, and you literally savor it, and you put it on the tip of your tongue and you feel it. That is savoring, and that is mindfulness in the moment. In our old practice, we used to use with children, we used to use oranges, and we would actually do a mindfulness activity where they would learn how to peel the orange slowly and mindfully. And in play therapy, it's one approach called Gestalt therapy. And in that approach, you basically are working on mindfulness and sharpening your five senses. That's the summarization. Long story short, the actual art of peeling each layer of that tangerine or clementine or orange or whatever it is, and slowly and mindfully, and then what heightens is your sense of smell as you're opening each layer. And then how does it feel to put that one little piece and savor? When we work on health coaching, a lot of the component that's happening is people don't realize they're eating so quickly and it's not mindful, and so they feel like they're overeating and they're hungry is because they don't actually get to chew their food because they're in a rush. And what savoring looks like is slowing down and enjoying the moment. It's like the person who says, I just love that first sip of coffee in the morning when I get to savor that. And what it is that's exactly the same sip of coffee if we can learn how to savor that moment when we close our eyes for that minute, and what that looks like when we just savor the moment. So to wrap it up for today, I really want you to highlight the fact that everybody was meant to live what's called a yogic life, which is mind, body, breath. I want you all to remember that we were meant to lead a life where we get to be in charge of things by savoring and showing gratitude. And number 3, I had mentioned the fact that we need to show ourselves humbleness, compassion, and kindness. And that comes from the inward journey of going in and just remembering to be patient with ourselves. So to wrap it up, I do want to say a quick few things about things that are happening with our organization. The Holistic Life Care, as you know, and I mentioned, is in its infancy stages. We are actually applying for some grants to help with COVID-19 relief, especially in the mental health arena and in health and wellness. And I would love for you all to go on the website, and as it's building, all of our podcasts will be there. Currently working on getting all the blogs transferred over from my old, where I had some of them hosted. And I would love for your feedback on what you all are looking for. So our goal is to provide sliding scale pro bono accessibility fees. And so what we're trying to do is really help marginalized populations, and accessibility happen for everyone, because the healthcare system is actually one that needs a supportive lens, and that's really what we want to be able to do. So please take a look at the website. It's www.theholisticlifecare.org. Of course, you saw the phone number banner, but the number is 646-926-4590. And of course, you can email me at DIYA holisticlifecare@gmail.com. Thank you so much for letting me come on your radio and TV on your show, on our show together. And I look forward to seeing y'all next week. And this is Arti with Light Up Your Life. And I wish you my love and light shines with the love and light to you. Have a great week, and take these little nuggets and carry them with you. See y'all next week.
The topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the host and their guests, and not those of W4CS Radio, its employees, or affiliates. W4CS makes no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for listening to the Cancer Support Network on W4CS.com.